Good morning. Thank you all for coming this morning. My name is Assemblymember Paul Krekorian, and we're here to talk today about important legislation that's pending in the state legislature, AB2669, an effort to try to put a stop once and for all to the scourge of reckless, high-rate speeders that are causing so much havoc in so many of our communities. Last July, right here in Glendale, a woman named Elizabeth Sandoval was walking to meet her sister who had just returned from Iraq serving our country. As she was crossing the street, a driver was hurtling down at speeds estimated to be at 65 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, struck Elizabeth Sandoval and killed her instantly. Sadly, this is not the only example of the consequences of this kind of high-rate speeding here in Glendale and in our surrounding area. We've had other instances where an elderly gentleman was driving down Chevy Chase. Two street racers were coming up in the other direction, taking up both sides of the street, hit him head-on, killed him instantly. Every community in our area has examples like this of horrible tragedies that are caused by complete lack of caring, complete disregard for human life, speeders who care nothing about the consequences of their actions. And that's why I introduced AB 2669, because these reckless, careless drivers don't seem to care if they get a ticket, but we hope that they'll care if we threaten to take their driver's license away. AB 2669 will add an extra point to the driving record of any driver who is speeding in excess of 25 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. That way we treat excessive gross violators differently than we do the average speeder. And that's because we think that these sorts of gross violators are disproportionately responsible for the deaths and injuries and mayhem that are caused in terrible traffic accidents on our city streets. It also means that although under current law someone can be convicted of 4 speeding violations before they lose their license, we think that a repeat offender who repeatedly races down the street at these high rates of speed ought to lose their license twice as fast. So after the second 2-point offense, their license will be subject to being suspended. So I'm very proud to be the author of this important legislation, which I refer to as Elizabeth's Law, in memory and in honor of Elizabeth Sandoval, who was killed here in Glendale. And I'm very proud to be joined today by representatives of law enforcement who are so strongly supportive of this measure. We have with us Chief Randy Adams of the Glendale Police Department, Chief Tim Steer of the Burbank Police Department, Commander Ng representing Sheriff Lee Baca, and many other representatives here of these great departments who work so hard to keep us safe on our streets. But we give them a great challenge. We don't give them the tools that they need to really attack this problem as effectively as they know that they can. And I hope that with the passage of this bill by the State Senate and a signature on this bill by Governor Schwarzenegger, we'll finally be able to give them the tools that they need to get these unsafe drivers off of our streets. So I'm pleased that you're all here, and I'd like to introduce some of the other folks who are going to be speaking today. And first among them, representing the City Council of Glendale, is my friend and a great leader of this community, Councilmember Ada Najarian. Ada?
Thank you, Assemblymember. The City Council of Glendale and the residents of Glendale strongly support Assemblyman Krekorian's bill. We have felt and experienced the tragedy of our residents being killed and severely injured by these ultra-high-speed drivers who think that our streets are miniature raceways. We will support this bill, and we will support any other bill coming from the legislature which will help to change the behavior, the pattern of high-speed driving with wanton disregard for human life. I applaud Assemblymember Krekorian, and I urge the legislature to pass this bill forthwith. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. As we've pursued this bill in the legislature and presented it to various legislative committees, the Glendale Police Department has been with us every step of the way. And we've been proud to have officers from the department up to testify in Sacramento to be able to tell the story of how this kind of violation so dramatically affects the residents of our city and every city in California. So I'm very proud to have had the Glendale Police Department's support throughout this effort, and I'm proud that Chief Randy Adams of the Glendale Police Department is here with us today. Chief?
Thank you, Assemblyman Krekorian. It is indeed my honor to be able to be here to thank, first of all, Assemblyman Krekorian for this excellent legislation. Anything that can be done to put an additional tool in the hands of our officers to give them additional leverage to stop the speeding on our streets is an outstanding asset to our law enforcement efforts in the community. Day in and day out, here with me today, you see our motor officers who are out there on the streets trying to combat the reckless driving, the speeding that occurs in our city, and trying to slow individuals down and help them to realize that speed kills. And sometimes people just don't seem to realize that. I myself actually stopped a reckless driver just a couple weeks ago who was driving at extremely excessive speeds, up to in excess of 90 miles an hour on the freeway, got off and started heading and changing lanes recklessly on the freeway, got off onto our streets here in Colorado, and continued that type of driving on our streets until I could get him stopped. And when I got him stopped, his reaction and his statement to me was, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was just having fun." And unfortunately, there's too many people out there that do drive on our streets at excessive speeds thinking that they're having fun, not realizing that they're just inches away from probably causing serious injury or loss of life. And it's hard after it's occurred because you can't take it back. You can't rewind and wish that you had slowed down and wished that you hadn't been driving so fast after you've maybe change somebody's life forever, either by seriously injuring them or killing them and having those types of tragic results. Elizabeth Sandoval, God rest her soul, was a very classic example of excessive speed, of a driver who'd been put on notice previously that his driving could end up resulting in serious injury or death. So the sooner that we can get those who continually flaunt the law and not only get cited for speed, but go on to continue to get cited for speed, the sooner that we can remove their privilege of driving in such a manner on the streets and send a very serious message to them, the better. So again, I applaud Assemblyman Krekorian's measure. We are in full support of that. We will do everything we can to help it become law. And we think that it will be an additional tool to helping stop this senselessness that occurs with speeding drivers, not only on the city streets of Glendale, but throughout the state. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. I myself am a resident of Burbank, and I'm delighted that we have such a magnificent police department there that does such a great job of keeping us safe. And I'm also proud that the City of Burbank and the Burbank Police Department have been very supportive of this legislation as well. And I'm pleased that we have with us today Chief Tim Stair, the Chief of the Burbank Police Department. Chief?
Good morning. On behalf of the men and women of the Burbank Police Department and the citizens of Burbank, I too would like to thank the Assemblyman for bringing forward legislation that hopefully will help reduce traffic accidents. Traffic issues in the city of Burbank, both accidents, all kinds of congestion, remain to be a major focus of our entire community. And I'll tell you, a quick review of our traffic accidents show that the primary collision factor on the vast majority of those accidents are speed related. So we believe any legislation brought forward that could help get these fast drivers, these speeders that I too echo the thoughts Chief Randy Adams. So many people seem to be speeding these days, young people that think it is a raceway, and we too get many complaints and combat that all the time. And I believe this legislation will give us some teeth to identify these drivers early and get them removed from the roadway. So again, on behalf of all the residents of Burbank, I thank the Assemblyman for bringing forward some much-needed legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Speeding is the cause of 1/8 of all crashes and about 1/3 of all fatal traffic accidents. Vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 2 and 34. So we know that this is an issue that impacts people throughout the country. We certainly know that it impacts people in this area, and this is an effort with the support of law enforcement to once and for all try to address it. You know, very often these speeders who are speeding at such high rates of speed are young males. The sorts of drivers who feel that there are no consequences to themselves, they're great drivers, there's never any risk that they're going to get into an accident, and they're relatively fearless. And let's face it, they don't really fear getting a ticket. But what they do fear is losing their driver's license. And if we can expedite that day, and if we can make sure that they lose their driver's license that much faster for this kind of abusive, reckless behavior, then that's a good thing for the people of this community, and it's a good thing, in fact, for those drivers, because we're keeping them safe from themselves as well. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here, and I'll be happy to take any questions, either to me or to the law enforcement folks who are here.